Okay, now that we've handled the adding and deletion, the next task is to allow the users to set one of their photos as their main photo. So we'll add a handler for this, and we'll create another C# class, and we'll just call this one set main. And this is going to be another command, so we'll say public class command, and we'll say iRequest, and we're going to return a result of type unit from this one. And we'll need to bring in mediator as per normal, and also our result object from application core. And the only prop we need in this one is the string of the ID of the photo that we want to set as the main photo. And then we'll need to create our handler. So we'll say public class handler, and we'll say iRequest handler, and we'll pass in our command and the result of type unit. And then we'll go ahead and implement our interface. And what we need access to is we'll need access to the current user's username that we're going to get from the token. And of course, we'll need access to our context so we can update the database here. So we'll generate the constructor, and we'll say data context and the user accessor, and we'll say user accessor, and we'll bring in persistence, and we'll bring in application interfaces, and we'll just initialize the fields from parameter. And then inside the handle method, we'll make this async, and we'll add the logic. So what do we need to do here? Well, we're going to need our user object with the photos collection, first of all. So let's do this. So we'll say var user equals await, and we'll say context.users, and we need to include the photos collection. So eager loading this again, and we'll bring in using Microsoft Entity Framework Core, and we'll see p goes to p.photos. And then we'll say first or default async, and we'll say x goes to x.username, that's equal to the user accessor, and we'll say get username. So that gives us our user with the photos, but we'll check to see if the user is null. It shouldn't be, but if it is, we're just going to return null. And then we'll need to get hold of the photo from the user's photo collection. So we'll say var photo equals user.photos, and we'll say first or default, and we'll need to bring in system.link, and we'll say x goes to x.id, that's equal to the request.id. Now, if the photo is null, then obviously we cannot set it to be the main photo. So once again, we'll just check this for null, and we'll return null if that is the case. And what we also need to do is get hold of the current main photo. So we'll say var current main equals user.photos, and we'll say first or default, and we'll say x goes to x.isMain. And then we'll just check to make sure it's not equal to null. If for whatever reason, somehow they've managed to get a photo up to our API without any other photo being set to main, not likely, but just in case. So we'll check that the current main is not equal to null, and if it is not equal to null, then we'll say the current main is equal to false. And then we'll say photo.isMain is equal to true. So we're just switching the main flag on the photos to false for the current one, and setting the one that we want to set to main equal to true. And then we can go and update our database. So what we'll do is we'll say var result or var success equals await, and we'll say context save changes async greater than 0, and we'll say if success, then we're going to return the results of type unit and say success, and we'll pass in unit.value because we do not need to return anything to our client from this method. And if it fails, then we'll return result of type unit.failure, and we'll just add a message saying problem setting main photo. As easy as that. And then we can go across to our photos controller, and we'll just add another endpoint, and we'll say HTTP post in this case, and we'll need to get the ID of the photo we want to set to main. And we'll also add an additional part to the root called setMain, just to be clear about what it is we're doing in the URL. We could get away actually with not using this root parameter here, the setMain, because we've got an HTTP post here that doesn't take any parameters. So in theory, we could use just ID here, but it's a little bit clearer if we use setMain about what its actual task is. And then we can say public async task, and we'll use iActionResult, and we'll say setMain and pass in the string of the ID of the image as the parameter. And then once again, we're just going to return handle results, and we're going to say await and mediator.send, and we're going to say new setMain.command, and then we're going to set the ID equal to the ID we're passing in as a parameter. Now it becomes a bit tricky to test this right now in our current situation because we've got no way of returning a collection of photos to the client yet. So what we'll do, rather than test this right now, we'll detour and we'll take a look at returning a user profile that includes the images, so it makes it easier to test what we're doing here. And we'll take a look at that next.